50 million. That's not a stock market figure. It's the estimated number of human beings trapped in modern slavery today. How many of their real stories have you actually heard?
Man wanted on human trafficking charges is now in custody. Police say 42-year-old Corey Robert Fowler turned himself in after they issued an arrest warrant. Fowler faces numerous charges, including one count of trafficking a person under the age of 18. According to police, the Woodstock man met a teen online, then started a relationship with her. He then started advertising her services as a sex worker on social media. Police say the woman was assaulted after she said she no longer wanted to do sex work.
Human trafficking is a horrific reality hiding in plain sight. For most of us, our only window in this darker world is the media. A breaking news report, a gripping documentary, a viral social media post. We rely on journalists to shed light on this crime.
Our offices, paint our nails, and paint our houses. They are in the room next door, or the house next door. They're in strip malls where anyone can see them, but most of us don't, because most of us don't know where to look. Until now. In 2017, Polaris analyzed one of the largest human trafficking datasets in the United States. We took the broad concepts of sex trafficking and labor trafficking and broke them down into what they really are: criminal operations within 25 distinct businesses. Now, we know where to find them. Now we can start to understand how they got there, how traffickers work, how the businesses are run. Now we know. Now.
But what happens when that light distorts the truth instead of revealing it? When the coverage focuses on the shock value over substance, on stereotypes over reality? The media's portrayal of human trafficking doesn't just inform us, it shapes public perception, influences policy, and directly impacts the recovery of survivors. Today we're asking a critical question. Is the media helping, or is it causing more harm? Between the 1990s and early 2010s, large-scale child sexual exploitation and trafficking occurred in Rotherham, England. When it first came to light, early media reporting often focused on the ethnicity of the perpetrators rather than the systemic failures that allowed the abuse to continue. The harm, this fueled racial tension and far-right extremism, shifting the conversation away from the victims. Survivors often felt silenced and re-traumatized as their experiences were overshadowed by political agendas. It took longer for meaningful child protection reforms to happen because coverage created division instead of focusing on safeguarding children. First, let's be clear about what human trafficking is. It's not always the Hollywood scenario of a stranger snatching someone off the street. The United Nations defined it by 3 key elements: the act, like recruiting or transporting a person; the means, using force, fraud, or coercion; and the purpose, exploitation.
Anyone can be a victim of human trafficking. A victim of human trafficking is a person who has been sexually exploited, subject to forced labor, or subject to the removal of internal organs or biomedical research. Human traffickers often trap people with promises of a good life or high income. These are usually done via employment, marriage, modeling, or tourism agencies, or by individuals. If you are offered a job, marriage, or education abroad, scrutinize the proposed contract and documents and check their validity. When you go abroad, acquire a visa matching your purpose of travel. What are the risks that can expose you to human trafficking? Absence of a visa matching your purpose of going abroad and residing there. Crossing the border with forged documents. Staying abroad longer than the duration of your visa. Trusting a person you don't know well with your passport. Being subjected to a work which is not covered by your employment contract. Restricting your freedom of movement and communication with other people. And other similar situations. If you or someone around you is exposed to these or similar situations, regardless of whether you are inside or outside the country, contact law enforcement agencies, as well as your embassy or consulate in your host country.
This exploitation isn't limited to the commercial sex trade. It includes forced labor on farms, in factories, in restaurants, and in private homes. Victims can be any age, gender, race, or nationality. They are often manipulated by people they know and trust. It's a complex crime rooted in exploitation and economic vulnerability, happening in every country, including our own. Now let's look at how this complex reality gets filtered through the media lens. We often see two very different kinds of stories. First, there's the sensationalized story. This kind of reporting ticks all the boxes for high ratings. It has heroes, villains, and damsels in distress. But look closer. The language is loaded, terrified, heroic. The focus is entirely on the dramatic moment of the raid, not the systemic issues that lead to the trafficking. The victims are portrayed as helpless and voiceless. This narrative perpetuates the myth that victims are always young, female, and kidnapped. It completely erases the millions of male victims, transgender victims, and the vast majority of cases involve forced labor. It tells the public that trafficking is a simple crime of monstrous individuals rather than a complex web of coercion and exploitation. It even makes it harder for victims who don't fit this narrow stereotype to be identified and get help. But there is another way. Let's call it responsible reporting.
A group of Guatemalan farm workers who said they were exploited while working on Michigan farms won their trial earlier this month. The 5 men accused their northern Michigan employer of trafficking and wage theft in a federal lawsuit. The defendants reject the claims and deny any wrongdoing. It's rare for a labor trafficking case like this to go to trial because it's often difficult for migrant farm workers to speak up. But attorneys say the civil case provides a glimpse into pervasive abuse in the H-2A program, which allows farms to hire foreign workers. The 5 men came to the United States with H-2A visas through a labor contractor called Purpose Point Harvesting. Over an 8-day trial, the men described working up to 19 hours a day, harvesting asparagus, zucchini, apples, and pumpkins throughout West Michigan. But despite the long hours, their paychecks didn't seem to add up. The lawsuit claims this ensured they couldn't afford to quit. To get the job, the workers also said Purpose Point Harvesting charged them an illegal $2,500 recruitment fee. Their attorney said these conditions led to exploitation, fraud, and coercion. Migrant legal aid attorney Teresa Hendricks told jurors, "All it takes for modern-day slavery are 2 things, poverty and a code of silence." A jury found Purpose Point Harvesting guilty of violating trafficking laws, wage laws, and breaching contract. The company was ordered to pay more than $580,000, including a $450,000 civil penalty. In Michigan, a blueberry farm was also accused of trafficking migrant workers 2 years ago, and another labor contractor has been sued 3 times in recent years over allegations of exploiting workers.
See the difference? The tone is informative, not sensational. The report protects the identity of the victims. Crucially, it partners with experts and survivor advocates. It shifts the focus from the gory details of the crime to the why and the how. It examines the systems, the policies, and the economic pressures that allow trafficking to thrive. This approach doesn't tell a story, it educates the public and empowers them to push for real systemic change. The core conflict for journalists is clear. How do you cover a horrific crime to raise awareness without re-traumatizing survivors and exploiting their stories for clicks and ratings? The pressure for a dramatic narrative often clashes with ethical obligations. Stereotypes are used as a lazy shorthand. Stock photos of women behind bars or with ropes on their wrists are used again and again, reinforcing a single inaccurate image of what a victim looks like. The media's need for a simple story often erases the complex, messy truth of trafficking. The good news is, the conversation is changing. Many journalists and media outlets are actively working to do better. Organizations like Polaris Project and the International Center for Journalists have developed comprehensive guides for reporting on human trafficking. These best practices are simple but powerful. They advocate for shifting the narrative away from sensationalism and toward solutions. They encourage journalists to quote experts and survivors when it is safe to do so, allowing them to control their own narratives. The stories the media tells about human trafficking matter profoundly. Sensationalism creates fear and misconceptions, hiding the majority of victims in the shadows. But responsible, ethical, and context-rich reporting does the opposite. It builds public understanding, holds systems accountable, and respects the dignity of survivors. The media holds a powerful choice: to be a megaphone for cheap horror or a spotlight for difficult truths and meaning solutions. Your attention is a powerful tool. As a media consumer, you can demand better. First, educate yourself. Visit the websites of credible organizations like the Polaris Project, Thorn, or the International Labor Organization to understand the real scope of this issue. Second, if this video was helpful, please share it. Spreading awareness about the media's role is a crucial step. And finally, support journalism that gets it right. When you see a thoughtful, in-depth report on the topic, share it, comment on it, and let the media outlet know that they're doing important work. For more information, check out our related videos, The Hidden World of Labor Trafficking and How to Spot the Signs of Human Trafficking. Thank you for watching.